Hi, it's Ron again. I wanted to make another video about mental health. And Zeus has the right idea back there, snoozing away. So in case you hear someone snoring during this video, it's the Zooster. Anyway, I was partly motivated to make this. So I don't know very many of the details that are going on, but apparently the cancel culture crowd, say that 3 times fast, wants to cancel Ice Cube because for one reason or another they think he supports President Trump, and I don't know if he does or not, and I don't really care if he does or not. I think people pay way too much attention to what celebrities say about politics. Uh, you know, we can all put out our voice on social media and everything, but again, the bottom line is that is Ice Cube's, regardless of how he's voting or who he's promoting on social media, that is his absolute right to vote for and endorse whoever he wants. And that's whether it's one of the major party candidates or a third party candidate or a fourth party candidate or not voting at all. That's his absolute right. And I think in this toxic election season, a lot of people have lost sight of that. And it is a very toxic and depressing election season. So, the aspect that I want to talk about was mental health. And first of all, I'm reminded of another rapper on this theme. I'm reminded of another rapper, Ice-T, who had an album many years ago called Freedom of Speech, Just Watch What You Say. And becomes more and more true every year. Freedom of speech, just watch what you say. I'll tell a little story about when I was a kid growing up in Mesquite, Texas. When my mom would take me to the mall, she'd always this is when I was 9, 10, 11 years old. She would always I'll start when I was about 9. She'd always just drop me off at the bookstore because I would just stay at the bookstore for hours and pick out 3 or 4 books that I was going to buy and that she gave me the money for that I was going to buy. And I would read parts of them and some other books as well that I was going to plan to buy the following week. Just so happens that a majority of these books were on UFOs, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, ancient mysteries like the pyramids. Remember at the time, Chariots of the Gods by Eric von Däniken was the big book. It sold, Lord knows, like 20 million copies worldwide, maybe more than that. They made a mediocre movie from the book. Well, the movie was okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. Well, it just so happens that they generally put all these, they didn't really know what to do with all these books about UFOs and Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster and all this stuff. So they stuck them in the occult section. And this was Mesquite in the early 1970s, part of the Bible Belt. So I would just be sitting there minding my own business, reading these books, and grown-ass adults walking by, especially if it was on a Sunday or a Wednesday. They were in that church mode, and in fact, it looked like they had just come from church. And they see a kid, 9, 10 years old, in the occult section reading all these books about ancient mysteries and the Bermuda Triangle and Loch Ness Monster and all this stuff, and they just couldn't resist spouting their mouth off and questioning me why I'm reading those books, because those are the works of Satan, and if I'm going to read about UFOs and the Bermuda Triangle, that I'm going to go to hell because I don't know Jesus and all this other stuff. Okay. That's where they've clearly stomped all over several boundaries there. Number one, I'm someone else's kid, so they need to leave me the fuck alone. Number two, regardless of my age, it's none of their business what I'm reading. It's absolutely none of their business what I'm reading. And in their minds, they're doing it for his own good, because, well, I want you to go to heaven, Ron. Well, I didn't tell them my name, of course. I was smart enough not to tell them my name, but, we want you to go to heaven, and we don't want you to go to the bad place. But if you're reading books about UFOs and the Bermuda Triangle, and my response to them, and I just shut them down so many times, was regarding with UFOs and Bigfoot and all this other stuff. My response was generally, well, maybe God made them too. You ever think of that? And just looks on their faces when, like I said, grown-ass adults got totally owned by a 10-year-old, got totally intellectually humiliated by a 10-year-old. They get kind of red-faced and stomp out, throw their hissy fit, stomp out of the bookstore, whatever. Bye. And the thing is that I had a right to read those books. I had a right to read whatever I wanted to in that bookstore. They didn't have any pornography in there, so I was too young for that. But that was the early 70s. And that intolerance, I see it today. I see it today in the voter shaming and all that. How dare someone think independently? You must subscribe to our religion. You must subscribe to our party. You must obey. It'll make us feel better if you drink the Kool-Aid. Well, my mom always had a saying, and whenever someone would say something like, yeah, when we get back to normal, and Mom would always chime in, yeah, whenever we decide what normal is. Whenever we decide what normal is. I still love that. Mom passed away. It's going to be 11 years, October 22nd. And I think that's a great phrase. And here's the bottom line is, we have absolute right to pick our own religion or not pick one at all. We have absolute right to vote for whoever the hell we want to or not vote at all. And I've decided that I'm not telling anyone except maybe my therapist who I'm voting for. And by the way, got this from my parents. My parents never voted, and I've mentioned this before. My parents never voted by party. My father, most of the time, conservative or Republican, but not always. There was about, at least 25% of the time he'd vote for a Democrat or sometimes an independent. Mom was the opposite end, usually voted Democrat, sometimes voted Republican, sometimes voted third party. Every once in a while she didn't vote at all because she was so disgusted with everybody. Uh, Also, they didn't always say who they voted for. Their generation, it was a very private thing. Bottom line is, whether it's them, whether it's Ice Cube, uh, people should people have the right to do that without any harassment from people, without any voter shaming. And it is the same thing as that bullshit that went on at the bookstore with me reading books about UFOs and Loch Ness Monster and all that. And by the way, I've probably read more books about Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, and UFOs than anyone you've ever met. So, if you ever want to ask any questions about those topics, I might have some answers. I don't know, but bottom line, I was very curious. I'm still very curious about those things, but I was very curious at that age about those things, and I was reading those, and there were people who felt like it was their business to try to shame me into not reading those things and into thinking like they did and subscribing to their religion, uh, their way of life. Because, oh my God, independent thought. At the age of 10, he's thinking independently. Oh my God. The guy might end up living in a van down by the river. Matt Foley reference. Anyway, well, this rant is a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be. I'll upload it to YouTube in a bit here. But however you're voting, or not voting, don't let people bully you. Don't let people harass you. You got to take care of yourself. Set your boundaries so that you keep your mental health. Because this is such a toxic election season. It's affected me mentally. I'm sure it's affected other people as well. That it can be kind of discouraging, which is kind of what they want, is to discourage you so that you'll give up. But don't give up. Do what your conscience tells you. All right. And remember, set those boundaries. Keep the life force zappers away from you. Keep the people that are telling you that you're going to go to hell away from you. Just as Arnold Schwarzenegger says, ignore the naysayers. And as Yoda says, we are luminous beings. Remember that. Y'all have a great day. Bye.